everyone, it's Neve Celtic Mist, and this is my part 2 to my video series on They Made Me Do It. And this is just a little series that I decided to do to talk about cards or decks that were inspired by certain YouTube content creators that inspired me to either get the deck that was on a wish list, or a deck that I'd never heard before and then saw it and absolutely had to have it. So I'm going to start off with a deck that Avalon inspired me to get. And I believe she had first seen this deck on Instagram, I think, for Terry Foss's artwork. I had never heard of Terry Foss until Avalon started talking about it. And I just fell in love when I looked it up. When she was speaking about it, I looked it up and I thought, I have to have this deck. This is, I believe, the very first one of the, I think it might be the first edition. I know some of the artwork and keywords have changed because she's done a few after this. It's came in the Simple Tuck box. The artwork is by the photography on the back of the moon is done by her daughter, and I just fell in love with this deck when I saw it. I just think the words, I love the way her artwork is just so beautiful, the colors, and being a witch, I really relate to the way she has the witches, and she draws the witches in this deck, black cats, like that, just beautiful. And the keywords in this version, I have not found a problem with them. I was watching Supportive Tarot a little while ago, and she had mentioned this deck, I think when she's reviewing her Oracle decks, and a couple of the keywords, she wasn't like, there was whether the artwork was done first, and then whether you can resonate with the keyword that's used. But on this version, I never had a problem with it. Yeah, I found it. It works well, but I just love the colors in it. It's just amazing. I just love to flip through these cards. It just puts me in a relaxing state of mind. And but this is one that I keep up near my altar, and I draw a card once a week, and I just love it. I have certain decks that I do weekly draws with, and this is one of them. Just beautiful. And this is the Earthly Souls and Spirits deck by Terry Foss, and love, love, love. And that was inspired by Avalon. The next deck that I'm going to do, just because it's close, I've got no rhyme or reason. I've tried to do this video, I can't tell you, 3 or 4 times, and Mercury is in retrograde, and communication is really difficult. I can't even, if I told you how many times and what things that have happened, you wouldn't believe it. The next deck, so I'm just going to keep rolling and see what happens. I don't know if this version will get up. I'll just keep trying until I get one that records properly and I don't have background noise and my microphone going wacky. But this one, I first learned of this deck from Shy Fox. I love her videos. I had never heard of this deck before. And this is the Enchanted Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Faber, and I know it's been out for a long time. I know they just released the 25th anniversary direct edition, but I've had this for a while now. And my first copy I actually got in Salem, and when I came home, I think it was either the King or the Queen of Pentacles was missing from the deck. And when I go to Salem, it's not that far away from me, but it's it's a hassle. It's like 45 minutes away. Other people that live far away are going to be like, what? But for me, it's just like I go there, yearly. And when I got home and I was so excited and found the card was missing, it was like, and the other thing is when I shop there, I'm like, it's like madness. I couldn't even remember. I couldn't even tell you what shop I got, this deck in, to even go back and to return it. So, hubby was an angel and decided to get me another copy online, which he did. Amazon. And so the other deck that I got in Salem, I actually used in spell work and magic, tarot magic, which probably is fitting because it came from Salem. And in magic, you don't need every single card, so that worked out. The artwork, I believe, are tapestries, and so each one was a full, huge tapestry, and then the cards were done from that. And it's unusual, it's different, it's quirky. I know it's probably not something that everyone will love, but I absolutely love this deck. For me, there's just something about it. And when Shy Fox showed it, I just knew it had to go on my list of want decks, and it made my Salem list, and I knew that when I was up in Salem, I was going to get this deck. So thank you very much to Shy Fox. And if you have a chance, check out our channel if you're not aware of who she is. My next group of decks I'm just going to do from, they're all inspired by Jennifer Ball and her Witch House. Yay! She started recording again, and I'm so happy. Jennifer, as we all know, has had such a rough year, and I just love her to bits. And it's good to see that she's doing well, but it's a long journey when you lose a partner like that. So love, love, love to her. And so the first deck, this deck was on my list. I did not hear about the actual Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot from Jennifer. It was on my list, but what I did hear from Jennifer was that the gold edition had come out. And there was a lot of controversy over the early editions with the cards, and I kind of was out of the loop on that, and then kind of like heard about it. But when I saw this gold edition, though, and the cards had been redone, the controversial ones, I thought, well, yeah, now's my time to get this deck. And I'm glad I did. I just love, to me, it has a very kind of Art Deco feel to it, and I just love that. I don't know why all these are upside down, but yeah. And you know, what can you say? Just the coloring, I do love the gold edging on this deck, and just it's got this tea stain kind of antique feel, but the drawings just remind me so much of like Art Deco that I just love it. Like the Sun card is just adorable, and I don't know, I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan, and Hercule Poirot, and this just seems like a deck that would have been around his time. Just the artwork is just awesome. So I love that. So yeah, this was inspired by Jennifer, not, like I said, hearing about this deck, but definitely the gold edition. She showed it, and I had to have it. So yeah, thank you, Jennifer. The next one that Jennifer inspired me, and I absolutely heard nothing about this, and it was Sasha Graham's Tarot of the Haunted House. And I love this deck. This deck reminds me of my favorite show when I was a kid, which was Dark Shadows. I don't know if anybody's old enough. Boy, I'm dating myself. That show with Victoria Winters, but the main heroine in this deck reminds me of Victoria, who would always start the show off with some dialogue of, I don't know, mystery or something. But it just followed a family, and they had vampires and all sorts of mystical experiences around the family, and there was time travel, and I don't know, I just loved it. And every one of these cards makes me think of that show. So I instantly had to get it. It's probably, you know, it may not be a deck for everyone. It has the number and then the little symbol of wands or swords or pentacles or cups at the bottom. That's the only keywords that you get. Like the Four of Cups. And I just love it. I mean, it's not really, the images may not be for everyone, but oh my God, isn't this like The Shining? I saw this and I was like, ugh. But I don't know, I just love them. I love these. It's got a very gothic kind of, like I said, Dark Shadows feel to it. And thank you, Jennifer, for introducing me to this deck, because I absolutely love it. I mean, even the back, when it has the moon and the house on the edge of the cliff by the ocean, it's just Dark Shadows to me. So I love it. So thank you, Jennifer, for that. The other deck that I'm going to, reach for here, it was also Jennifer Ball inspiration. In this deck, I also did not hear about, although I'm familiar, obviously I already showed one of Terry Foss's decks, but I wasn't aware that she had done these affirmation cards. I don't think she has them out anymore, but Jennifer showed them, and I was like, wow, like, I've been out of the loop on Terry Foss, and I saw that these cards were available from Jennifer, and when I saw that, I just went right over and bought them, because I just love her artwork, and who doesn't need some great affirmations in their life. Only positive thoughts and energy flow through me. Boy, Mercury in retrograde, don't we need that? But just, oh, look at that. Just love it. Cutest little owl you ever saw in your whole life. So yeah, there's my witch's artwork that I just adore. How Terry draws and creates these images. Awesome. And the color, as always, amazingly wonderful. And so I went right out and got that deck because of Jennifer. And I love and I'm so grateful for her. The other deck, there's another one that Jennifer inspired me. Never even heard about it. I believe she got her copy off of eBay because this deck is not in print anymore. Lo Scarabeo, Pirate, Tarot of the Pirates, I believe. Yeah, Tarot of the Pirates. She showed this deck and I was like, oh, wow. I'm not a very big person that goes off on eBay and purchases eBay decks, like things that are out of print. I always feel like if I'm going to get a deck, it's going to show up in my life one way or another. And that's just what happened with this deck. Jennifer literally showed this deck. I went to my local metaphysical store, and within, I don't know, about a week and a half later, I think, it wasn't that long, I walk in the shelf and they're brand new on the shelf with the tarot decks, kind of pushed off to the side, might have had even a little dust on it, was this deck. After I said, oh, I love it. And I have always been a pirate, adventurer, person that loved those stories. And I think one of the first books that I can remember reading, actually, was Treasure Island. And so when Jennifer showed this deck, I was like, wow, I'd love to have that deck. Isn't this cool? So there it was, brand new, on the shelf, never opened, and the price was like $22, I think. So I was like, okay, I am getting this deck at this moment, and I wanted it, and the universe made sure I got it, which I just love. And it's just, I mean, what can you say? Look at that. Look at that. Just like, it's amazing. I love it. And thank you, Jennifer, because my eyes, I've probably been in that store a million times and probably passed this deck over, not even looking at it, not even realizing anything about it. And she just brought it to my attention, even the backings I love. And there it was, waiting for me to pick it up. So, yeah. Tarot of the Pirates, Lo Scarabeo. Thank you, Jennifer. The final Jennifer Ball inspiration deck to me is, of course, everybody hears about this deck, was the Dark Mansion Tarot, another deck I knew nothing about until Jennifer showed. She got this version, and I believe she got the deluxe at the same time. And I just love the black edging on this. I have little hands, so I'm not a fan of huge decks. I would much prefer to have the smaller decks, but this artwork just immediately, I thought of Tim Burton, and I just loved it. I'm like, I just can't believe it. I know I don't have to go into it because there's other cards. If I go into it, it would be more on how I'm using it and what each card is telling me, which I think I may end up doing a series on that, because I just, at least one video on it, I guess, because I'm a big supporter of that. Yeah, there's tons of videos out there and people have reviewed them, but everybody has a value and an opinion, and you may say something or see something with a deck that someone else isn't, or you may be the one to inspire them, which this is what this video is all about. Random people with their view on decks that are out there and on my list, but they say something or they notice something, or the way they talk about it inspires me to say, you know what, they're right. I know I have to have this deck in my life. And so, yeah, kudos to Jennifer. She showed me this deck, and I'm so grateful. Like I said, I don't really have to say too much about it. I think everybody pretty much knows about this deck now. But I do owe Jennifer Ball a debt of gratitude for opening my eyes to that was out there. The next two decks that I'm going to show were for Brian Cormac Carr, BCC, and on his he did a magic series, and it was in that magic series that he mentioned this Spellcasters tarot, which I don't know. I live under a rock, I think. Had not heard about it, had not seen it, But when he showed it in his Magic series, I just fell in love with the images. I know in this deck, the swords have been replaced as fire, wands as air, and that can be a stumbling point for some people. But for me, quite honestly, I don't have any problem with it. And I actually love the diversity that's in this deck, which I just wish more decks would be inclusive and show this. I love that fool. And that's a big sword. Yeah, so I just love the images in this deck, and look at that. I think that's one of Kelly Bear's favorites. Yeah, so it was my first time, and someone pointed out that the squirrel has a mask on over its head, which I don't think I noticed that the first time around. So I'm one when you're looking at a deck of cards, every time I pick them up, I'm finding something different, or if, like I said, someone does a review and they notice something that I haven't even been paying attention to. So that was from Brian. Appreciate that inspiration. And my next deck is one that was also inspired by Brian, and this deck is Tarot of the Old Path. And basically this one was inspired because this was his first deck, and I think I saw him mention this on the interview that Simon did with him, and I had never heard of this deck, again living under a rock, but when he spoke about it, and I put it on my wish list, and I went through some videos on the images, and I just decided I needed to get this deck. And this is actually a fairly recent purchase. In fact, over the weekend I got this deck at my local metaphysical store. It was on the shelf, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get it this time. And I like to support my local place. It's just something about going into a place, and it's nice when somebody actually knows who you are, and you can say, hey, how you doing? And we talk about different things, and that usually is what happens when we go in there. And so, yeah, I decided to get this deck last weekend, and I'm very happy I did. Another Brian deck, so thank you, Brian. Another series of decks I'm just going to pull out real quick, and these were inspired by Sacred Seed, and she had actually done a side-by-side comparison of this deck, the Tarot Apocalypsis, and the Tarot Illuminati, and it was from the side-by-side that I decided to get both of them. Now, one I ended up getting in my yearly trip to Salem, which was the Tarot Apocalypsis, which I think I talked about that in another video. But right now, this has been one of my favorite decks. I just love the images. I know for some there wasn't a huge connection as with the Illuminati, but wow. To me, King of Swords, Odin, love, love, love. It's very vibrant. There's different gods and cultures in this deck. I love that bathhouse. And I just felt a huge connection to it. I was in Salem, and I didn't really have, I wouldn't say a set list, but when I was going back and forth, should I get this one? Should I? And then I just decided to get it. And once I did, and actually I was one of the holdouts on the Tarot Illuminati. I knew I was going to get that deck, but I just love the book to this. I just wish the binding, I think I've mentioned that before, but I love the huge colored pictures of the cards. Each has a little write-up and a story about the image, which I do love when a tarot creator actually includes the image and a description of the image of what the artist is representing. I love that when they do that, and it's kind of disappointing when they don't. I get it, because sometimes you want your own idea. When you look at the card, you don't really want to know. I guess if you're reading intuitively and you want to get your own vibe, but for me, I actually do like it when they, I do have the main book to this as well. She wrote a book, Kim Huggins, after. This one comes with a deck, was written very quickly, not a lot of in-depth about it, but enough. I think there was enough. I like the color pictures. The book that she wrote after actually has no pictures, so I use these two books now in conjunction because I love to look at the big images of the cards. Look at that. That's one of my favorite cards. the Empress in this deck. And so I was a holdout. I knew about the Illuminati. It was on my list. But once I saw the side-by-side by Sacred Seed, and I knew that I was most likely going to get both decks, and I ended up getting the Apocalypsis in Salem. When I came back, I ordered the Illuminati so I would have both. But like I said, I'm kind of behind the scenes on that, but it's just gorgeous. Who doesn't love this deck? I don't know. For me, it's so rich, so vibrant, so beautiful. But so is the Tarot Apocalypsis to me. It's just a little different. I don't think there was a lot of people that didn't feel the same about the Apocalypsis. I think it's a deck that grows on you. It has on me, but it was Sacred Seed's comparison. Love the poems. But this is much more classic kind of images. The Hermit card, one of the cards I always look at in a deck. Just love it. Look at this Two of Swords. You can't really rave too much. I mean, this deck took the tarot world by storm. These images were everywhere, especially this one. You can't say enough about it. But I do owe it to Sacred Seed because it was her review of the side-by-side that made me decide I was going to make the leap and finally get this deck. So yes, thank you to her. I miss her actually, and it would be nice I hope everything's going well. It would be nice to see her back making videos. I know she's been a big inspiration to a lot of people. Sorry for all like the clatter in the background, but I'm trying to get through this. Next deck was inspired by a person that was probably one of the first people, another one of the first people I watched on YouTube, and that is Truth and Story. And who doesn't love her? She has such a wealth of knowledge, and she's so, I don't know, I can learn so much from her in just a small amount of time and just listening to her. And that's the Llewellyn Tarot. I actually love the images of this tarot. I know she trimmed hers down. I'm not a big trimmer or edger, as people will know, but look at that Hermit. Just gorgeous. The colors in this deck. They're so soft, warm. I know my husband has trouble just with the way they have this in kind of like a script to read for the images. But I don't find that distracting. But I do just love the images of this. The Welsh feel to it. You've got the whole feeling of Camelot behind this. I know, I think my husband says, you know, Camelot's not Welsh, but I just love the images of this. I'm drawn to Celtic and images and just the stories and Welsh mythology as well, and I just love this deck. And when she showed the trim down, you could really see the images, and that's what really spurred me on to get it. But for myself, like I said, I like to keep the cards pretty much in the form they come in. I'm not a real adventurous kind of trimming person and changing a deck. So yeah, and I love the backs to this too. So that is the Llewellyn Tarot, and I got, like I said, that was Truth and Story. The other thing that I got from Truth and Story, and I haven't even started to work with this is a recent edition, are just Oghams. And she spoke of them, and I want to get some oracle cards also of Oghams to help with them, but right now I did get the actual Oghams. And I'm looking forward to learning this system. But this is a recent purchase, so I haven't really worked with them, so I can't really say too much about it. But I did get inspired by Truth and Story talking about them and showing them, and she did some in-depth videos on them, which I have to go back and rewatch now that I actually made the purchase and got them, just so that I can learn what I'm supposed to be doing with them. But I found it fascinating. I was never really one for runes, but when I didn't even know about Oghams and that they existed. And again, like I said, living under a rock. I think I'm going to stop this video now and pick up and see how it went, because like I said, I've tried to do this series of part 2. I can't tell you how many times, and because Mercury's in retrograde. So I'm going to stop it here, and then I'll finish up with a part 3. Blessings to all of you. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, and if you feel like subscribing, great. Thanks.